We're going to talk about the very basic music elements of sound, music, and pitch, and make sure that we all are on the same page as to what these mean. So let's start first with, what is sound? Well, we hear it all around us all the time, but how do we look at it from a physics perspective? If we look at a physical recording, and those of you who've worked with a digital audio workstation have probably seen this, we say that it's vibrations. You can tell when sound is being made by how and what kind of sound is being made by the types of vibrations that you see on your workstation. So, and the vibrations can be, typically we hear them in air, but if you've ever swum in water and made sound underwater, you know that sound is transmitted in water as well. So fluid is also another place where you can have sound transmissions. And we've heard some, if you Google whale recordings or dolphin recordings, you know that sound transmits under that. And it's some really beautiful sound underwater. So what is music? Well, in our case, music is going to be the organization of sounds in time. And we're using a really broad definition of music because there have been composers through the ages who have challenged our definition of what music is. Not just something pretty to be looked at, but also art that challenges us to think about the world around us in a different way. So we'll be talking about music in the terms of a wide variety of experiences, oral experiences, and not just pretty. So for the definition of this class, music is going to be the organization of sounds in time. Now, physically speaking, the nerves, our ears are fearfully and wonderfully made. The nerves in our ear are pitch specific. Those of you who've taken anatomy know that there's cilia, these little hairs inside the ear that are sensitive to certain pitches and allow the brain to figure out what the pitches are. So when you have hearing loss, usually there's some damage to the cilia. And they react differently based on what pitches are being played. And so we are able to see and hear amazing things at various volumes and pitches and a wide range. Those of you guys probably are capable of hearing a higher range of pitches than I am. My ears have been abused for longer periods than your ears have, and I am actually losing some hearing loss because I spent so much time with a violin up against my ear. Now, rhythm is really cool because there are two places in the brain that are reserved for rhythm, not just one. And so those of you who know your anatomy, a cerebellum is involved with the absolute duration of the pitch. So how long is the pitch held? But it's like you could put a stopwatch on it. Whereas the basal ganglia happens to deal with a different type of pitch, so the pitch as relative to a regular clicking of sound, a regular beat, if you will. But it's amazing that it's not just one place in our mind that uses our brain that deals with rhythm, but two. The other part of our brain is used for, if you're listening to music with lyrics, the language center gets involved with the grammar of music. And so you have to, so when you're singing songs or listening to songs, that's part of your brain gets involved with it. And so if those of you who are involved in healthcare, they've done studies on patients with dementia, and they've found that if you play music from before they got dementia, often it'll be calming and they'll sing along, or they'll be able to perform along with it, and it's as if there is no dementia. So music is an amazing way of accessing parts of our brain that maybe have been taken over by sickness or illness. The other thing is that music excites the pleasure center of the brain. It's amazing how it is a way of building endorphins and making us has the capacity to make us feel better. And if not feel better, at least know that we're not the only person in the universe feeling what we're feeling. Because it just is a phenomenal way of lifting our mood to something different. Okay, so we're going to shift to something different. I mentioned this word before, pitch. Now, we're not talking about the sap from trees. We're talking about a quantized sound. And sound can be high or low. And it can be, usually when we're talking about instruments, the bigger the instrument, the lower the sound, and the smaller the instrument, the higher the notes. So here we have a picture of the piccolo, which is only about a foot long, and here you have the largest brass instrument in the orchestra. This is a tuba, and you can see how much tubing is there. There's a lot more tubing there, so the sound is likely, and then this bell is really big, so the sound is likely going to be really deep. Same thing goes with string instruments. This little ukulele is likely to have a higher pitched sound than this upright bass. Now, when you have, as far as when sound is being made, you need a vibrating, two things. You need something that vibrates, and then you also need a resonating chamber. So on this string bass, you've got strings when plucked or bowed that vibrate, and then the resonating chamber for the vibrations to mull around and come out and make sound is the body of the bass instrument. On a trumpet, the vibrating part is going to be the player's lips, which buzz. On a oboe or a clarinet or something like that, you usually have a reed that's involved. And when we sing, it's our vocal cords. Our vocal cords are what vibrate, and then our lungs are the resonating chamber for sound. When you play an electric instrument, there is no resonating chamber, and so hence you need an electric amplifier to take the vibrations and send them out into the world. So let's listen to a couple pieces so we can have this example of what high sounds like. We're going to first listen to this piece by Antonio Vivaldi. It's the Piccolo Concerto in C major, the Largo. So check this out. In this piece, we have the really high piccolo sound, and you can tell that it's a wind instrument by the way the quality of the sound is. It's very whistly. Also in this piece, you notice that we have a low pulsing bass line, and then essentially a string pad sound in the middle where you've got the rest of the orchestra holding on to chords. All right, I want to play you a different example for some fun. Here is the baby elephant walk being played on piccolo, which is kind of fun. You can see how small the instrument is. It is the smallest instrument, the highest instrument in the typical orchestra or band. And we're going to pause that there. All right, here is your typical bass instrument. Here's the lowest instrument. We're going to look at the Capriccio da Camera by Christer Danielsen, and this is a piece for tuba. So you can hear there how low the tuba goes. It's a much lower instrument, and it makes sense because here's an example of the tuba. You can see how big it is compared to this guy. Here's another picture of him up there. Okay. All right, so the other thing we need to talk about is pitch. Now, pitch is a specific note, and the pitch, and I guess we are currently talking about pitch. I got sidetracked. Now, the difference thing that we need to know about is that pitches, the distance between two pitches is called an interval. So you have, when everybody sings the same note together, we call that singing in unison. And even when men and women sing the same notes together, it's not singing in unison, but often we call it unison, even though they're sounding an octave apart. They're still singing the same note, the same pitch, if you will, or a high and low version of the note, which I guess those are two pitches, but it's the same note. And so here you can see a piano keyboard. Notice that we have a repeating pattern of 3 notes plus 2 notes. And every time we have that repetition, you're going to have notes of the same name. They're just going to be higher or lower. And note, so the distance between 2 pitches is an interval, so that you can have them close together or you can have them far apart. So here's an example of a close pitch. This is a half step. We really can't get any closer than that. And here's a farther apart pitch. That's an octave. It's pretty far apart. Here's as far as you can go on the piano. Those are really wide pitches. But that gives you some idea of what we've got going on. So just a takeaway for you, be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or discouraged. The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Take care of yourselves.